back to Todd Family Farm. So today we have a little bit of a simpler video for you guys. So we have a little garden tour, little update on the garden, and then Mama is going to be showing you guys about water glassing eggs. So if you can hear, we're actually getting a little bit of sprinkles right now. We're over here to do afternoon chores, and it's raining a little bit. It's very windy, but I hope you guys enjoy the video. So we're going to start off with the garden tour. Got a lot of garden work done this morning. It was a perfect morning for it. Overcast, cool. It's just now starting to warm up a little bit, so it's just been perfect. We've been out here all morning. Most of us. Some of us have been inside editing. Most of us have been out here and just getting the garden in good shape. It was dry, so we were trying to keep up with the weeds. Of course, the weeds weren't real terrible. Then we got a lot of rain, so then the weeds went crazy. So we are fine-tuning it now, getting everything looking good, and I think it's in really good shape now. We got our potatoes. Here's our potatoes. We waged war on the potato beetles this year. We showed them no mercy, so we broke down and we got some actual spray to spray them with, and man, it really does the trick. As you can tell, they have not had any opportunity to ruin our plants, and every one that I see, I spray it a little bit and it's gone. And when the first few rows were first coming up, the potato beetles were all over them. I come down and spray them and they just die, and there's just piles of them underneath. And they'd even come up out of the ground and end up dead. But just the amount of potato beetles that were here in the ground was amazing. So I think we'll have them under control this year, and maybe they won't be a problem next year. So as you can see, everything is just doing really well. It's happy, not too hot. We've had some moisture, so we're really hoping for a good garden this year. And right now I am just hilling the potatoes, which we do this with potatoes, beans, corn. And what you do is you just bring loose dirt up underneath the plant. That helps with stabilizing the plant good as it grows, and also suppressing the new weeds that are coming up. If you get them covered up with dirt good, then they'll die. They won't be able to make it. So we try and do that once the tiller goes through. We get all this nice loose dirt, get up underneath the potatoes, the beans, the corn, a little bit of the tomatoes, keep the tomatoes hilled up as well. So that just really helps with stabilizing the plants, giving them extra support, and weed control. And yes, as someone had noticed before, we do like to go barefoot. Now these young'uns aren't barefoot this morning just because they haven't been in the garden much, but Adam and I are both barefoot right now, and it just works out well, especially when the ground's a little moist. We don't want to mud up some shoes. So just go barefoot and it feels great on the feet.
I was just going to point out that these are the potatoes that we planted, nothing but an eye. And not only, actually I just cut out anything that looked like it might be an eye. So I planted nothing bigger than my fingernail, tip of my pinky. And so lots of these, so you see I planted an eye basically every 6 inches here, and every single one of them has come up. And still weeding some. So you see I know people doubted that you don't have to plant a whole potato or whatever, but if we had planted the seed potatoes that we had whole, it probably would amount to about a third of one row. If we sliced our seed potatoes up then, you know, to get in 3 or 4 chunks out of a seed potato, it'd probably be a whole row. But we took, just, I don't know, 10 pounds of seed potatoes, and you just take every single eye off and plant it, and that's the result. So the results speak for themselves. That's a little experiment here with these potatoes. Those are light planted ones, and light planted, they They don't like heat. Those were planted when it was hot. So here's the potatoes. We got everything tilled, and it's good to have some topography to the garden. It breaks up water flow. It keeps a hard crust from forming. And then also when you go back in there, it's kind of like, you know, if you have a roll of tape and you ever let the end of the tape go flush, it's hard to get started again. Well, if you just booger up or, you know, crumple up the end of the tape or fold it back on itself, it's easy to find and easy to get started again. Having this topography, and what I mean by topography is it's not smooth. And leaving it rough, it looks better smooth, but it actually so much better rough. It doesn't crust up, it keeps the water from flowing and eroding, but also when you go back in there with anything to till, you've got something to get started on. And smooth, it just doesn't do as well tilling, and it can get hard when it's dry. But rough, you pull the high spots off and to the low spots, you can keep tilling all throughout the summer if you've got some rough spots to start and get going on.
This is the haul from the garden today. So we have lettuce, onions, beets, and turnip greens. So over there is freshly baked loaf of bread. And Nick is a fan of hot dogs. Definitely one of the best parts of summer is you get to eat straight out of the garden. So there's a little update in the garden. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And now Mom is going to be showing you guys about water glassing eggs. So water glassing eggs is, as Mom will explain, a way to preserve eggs. And so we thought we'd show you guys this, and I will let Mom explain about it and show you guys the process.
Water glassing, a way to preserve eggs. And we found this method a few years ago, and I really like it. So last year technically was my first year of success. A couple years ago I tried it, did a different method, that did not work well. I used too big of a container, and then that kind of the weight of the eggs messed up the ones on the bottom, so then it spoiled the whole batch. So last year, springtime, I collected eggs, all of our extra eggs, and water glassed them, and then used them last winter. Worked beautifully. We were able to eat, actually we ate on all of our fresh eggs that we were still getting through the winter, and then all of the water glass eggs I used for baking. Now you can use water glass for eating as well. The whites and the yolks, they're not quite as firm. You can get them out of the solution and refrigerate them to firm them up some, but they're, you know, you can tell a little difference, but certainly not taste wise. There's not much difference. It'd be more how they're setting up. So mostly for water glassing, I used for baking, then we were able to eat on our fresh eggs. With water glassing, what you're doing is you're preserving the egg. Now eggs, when a chicken hen lays an egg, they do have a natural film on them called the bloom. The bloom preserves it. What you need to do if you're going to water glass is you do not wash the eggs. If you wash that bloom off, then you're exposing that egg to things entering into it. That's why with store-bought eggs, you're not able to use store-bought eggs for water glassing. You want to make sure that you do not wash your eggs. So over the course of, you know, just a few days, this is a collection of eggs over the last few days, and I am ready to get them in the solution, ready to water glass and preserve for next winter. What I use for water glassing is just pickling lime. So I get a bag of Mrs. Wage's pickling lime, and I put it in a container just so it's easier to deal with. But what you're going to do is you use 1 ounce of lime, and this happens to be a 1 ounce little scoop here. 1 ounce of lime to a quart jar of water. So put your lime in there, fill it with water, shake it up good, and you're ready to go. And all that I do is you can see here I've got a container that's got some eggs in it already. I keep track of when I put eggs in, and I don't keep close track of how many eggs I put in, but it's roughly about 2.5 dozen. I don't want to fill it too full and there be, you know, too much weight on them again. These are mayo and ranch containers that we buy mayo and ranch in bigger containers a lot because we go through it a lot, especially during the summertime. So we have these stored up, and these have work really well for this project. So all I'm going to do is pour my lime water in, and the lime will settle to the bottom, but it still is able to seal the egg. So the lime water mixture will further seal the egg. It works with that bloom that is already on the egg to fill the pores of the eggshell to where, you know, it's preserved. So these containers just sit down in our basement. So last year with my containers, I believe I had 6 or 7 containers, did really well. And this year I'm actually trying to do even more because it worked so well, and it was just such a help to have. Last winter with baking and all, and especially with the price of eggs went way up, and so I was very thankful that we had these on hand. So all I'm going to do is set the egg down in there once I pour my solution in. Pour it gently in because I already have eggs in here to begin with. And I'm not going to put the whole thing in there right now because I need to get some eggs in. So I just kind of feel around to where it's going to rest, good resting spot for it. Set it down in there and it's good to go. So this is what I'll do with the rest of the eggs. This is kind of I probably do it about once a week, maybe a little bit more activity all throughout summer when the hens are laying well and we've got a surplus of eggs and we want to preserve them. And like I said, I just keep track on my lid of how often I'm putting in so that I know when I go to use them this winter. I can start with the oldest ones first. Waterglass eggs, I believe, can keep up to a year. Now ours, you know, I used all of ours up within a year, so I don't really know for sure, but I believe, you know, just researching online, it's a good year that they will stay somewhat fresh or, you know, able to be used. So water glassing, if you're ever have a surplus of farm fresh eggs, not washed, clean farm fresh eggs, and you're wondering what to do with them, I would highly suggest water glassing. It just works very well.
So that is going to be it for today's video. A little bit simpler, but I hope you guys enjoyed it. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.